Hi. So let's explore using a unit cost analysis for dealing with a sudden spike in the cost of one of your farm's inputs. Say you're raising a flock of hens and have markets for organic eggs, and then the price of grain goes up suddenly overnight. What options do you have to keep producing and selling those eggs? Well, you can use a unit cost analysis to figure out how to absorb and react. And here's an example from this diversified farm, Entropy Farm, that raises both a couple acres of veggies and has a flock of 80 laying hens. So this spreadsheet was built from a template that Bo Dennis here at MOFGA created, and it's used in our beginning farmer courses. And Entropy Farm is producing 1,666 dozen eggs each year, and then they're also accounting for about a 10% shrink. That is, 10% of their eggs will be unmarketable or not make it to market. So that in the end, Entropy Farm is going to have 1,500 dozen eggs to sell. And they sell most of those eggs, 80% of them, at their farm stand at the full retail price of $7.50. Then they don't sell any eggs through wholesale market channels, but the remaining 20% of their eggs are sold at a 10% discount to their CSA members. That's 675 per dozen. So their total revenues for the year are going to be a little over $11,000. For their expenses, their variable costs include grain, bedding, labor, packaging, and then the fixed costs that are directly associated with the egg operation include the infrastructure like the portable coop, fencing, feeders, and waterers. And these fixed costs are added together and amortized, that is, spread out over 7 years. Add them all up, divide by 7 for a depreciation cost each year of around $195. And those fixed costs are added to the variable costs. So we see their annual expense budget being $10,600. And finally, at the bottom, you see that gives them a $345 profit, about 3% margin. They spent $10,600 to make $345. Basically, a break even operation, not a real moneymaker, but it likely serves a valuable function on the farm. Maybe the chickens are an important part of their soil health management, or maybe part of an agritourism component where they bring school children and families to the farm. Either way, let's just say they're content with this being a break even enterprise, and they know their veggies play the stronger economic role in sustaining their farm. So finally, at the bottom in the pink box, we see that it costs them $6.41 per dozen. That is their unit cost. Okay, so that's what Entropy Farm was planning for a normal year of production and sales for their eggs. But now, let's imagine that a 25% tariff on imports from Canada bumps the cost of organic grain up 25%. This would mean that their cost of grain goes from 41 cents a pound up to 51 cents per pound. That's a 25% increase. And immediately the spreadsheet does the calculations, and you can see, they're now going to be losing money. Not a huge amount, $385, but a loss nonetheless. Maybe they can live with this, maybe not. This type of cost increase usually isn't temporary. Prices aren't likely to go down again. So they need to plan how to react to this input spike and communicate any changes to their farm crew, their customers, and they need to make a plan to go forward. So, for this scenario, I took the time to create 3 different options for them to consider. That's really the beauty of living in this landscape of a spreadsheet. They can imagine different ways they can make some changes to what they do so that the egg operation at least stays close to a break even operation as they had planned, or maybe even improves. So, option one in column G shows what things could look like if they stopped giving the discount to their CSA customers. They're not going to sell at 675. They're going to sell 100% of their eggs at the full retail price of $7.50. So let's scroll down to the bottom And we'll see with this action, they're still losing money, albeit a little bit, $160. And they might be okay with it, they might not. That's one option. A second option in column H is just raising prices across the board. They're still going to sell 20% of their eggs to the CSA at a 10% discount and 80% of their eggs at a full retail price, but they're going to raise prices 25 cents per dozen. That's about a 3% increase, and they thought maybe raising it any more would become uncompetitive and they fear they might lose customers. So just a 25-cent increase. And so let's see what that does down to the bottom. And that makes it just break even, a 0% margin. Basically, they're spending $11,400 to lose $10. And they might be okay with it, they might not. That's just another option. So let's look at one more option, option 3 in column I. And here I just did a combination of both those two things. I said, okay, we're not going to sell any eggs at a discount to CSA members anymore. I'm going to sell all of the eggs, all 1,500 dozen, at the full retail price, which is going up 25 cents. So let's scroll to the bottom where we see, of course, the rosiest picture of all. It's closer to where their original plan was. It's a positive 2% margin instead of 3%. They're basically spending $11,400 to make $215. Now, I'm not going to say that there's a right or a wrong or that any of these are the best scenario. We could try some other options like raising the egg prices 30 cents or giving the CSA customers only a 5% discount, or maybe even trying something new like offering a different pack size like a half dozen at a higher price point. This is all part of the world that exists within these spreadsheets of unit cost analysis, where expenses and revenues, they can bounce around in the rows and columns until you like the way they're lining up. And yeah, there's certainly no guarantee of profitability built in here, but this type of spreadsheet is a great tool for piecing together new options when some wrench is suddenly thrown in and you need to consider how to keep close to your original vision. So thanks for watching. This video is one in a series of farm financial topics that cover the chart of accounts, as well as cash flow projections and unit cost analysis. I hope you'll look those up. Check the links below for more information.